Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our Peel Police Services Board meeting of Friday, April 24, 2026. Let me begin with our Indigenous land acknowledgement. We would like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather and on which Peel operates is within the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat nations. For thousands of years, Indigenous peoples have inhabited and cared for this land and continue to do so today. We are grateful to have this opportunity to work in this territory and on this land, and by doing so, respect the land's significance for all people of Peel. Roll call, all my members are present. Declarations of conflict of interest, do I have any? Seeing none. Chief's update, Chief.
Thank you and good morning, Chair. We do have a few updates for the board. First one, I do want to acknowledge that in this last year and the last 2 years, the board has been a strong advocate for many related federal issues, inclusive of the bail reform piece, which hits home for us, big things like auto theft, the extortions. But at the root of it is many of these justice bills that we're watching and hoping that they pass through all the readings and through Senate. And we have not just sat back and let them occur by themselves. So I do want to thank the board for their assistance in the advocacy for advancing them. We believe wholeheartedly that if some of them fail, we have a responsibility to contribute to what can be done to make sure they get across the finish line. And part of that has been independent activities that we've been doing, and particularly on the major crime related issues. Deputy Milinovich has had an opportunity on behalf not only of Peel Regional Police, but as you know, I sit on the board for CACP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police. We've had multiple streams of advocacy, and Nick has, I would say, perhaps a positive one today to report back. So I'll turn it over to Nick.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief, and through you, Chair. Just to double down on what the Chief said, the advocacy that has occurred from this board, and certainly the Chief, CACP, OACP on the topic of lawful access, it's a difficult one to explain the value of that to people at times. But what I can say is currently lawful access and the discussions around it are probably some of the most significant potential changes to our ability to respond to organized crime. It's our ability to collect digital evidence, interceptions, really to get involved in complex crimes, which the vast majority of those crimes are supported by transmissions from my phones and et cetera. So, on the heels of the advocacy that has been done, at the beginning of March, Bill C-22 was introduced. It is currently in the legislative process. I had the opportunity to travel to Ottawa, have conversations with senators, members of parliament, and a variety of stakeholders to help explain the value of that and unpack some of the misconceptions, because there are misconceptions associated to it. But the simplest way for people to understand it is it will allow police to collect the evidence that they need more expeditiously with the authorizations that already exist and the protections for privacy. So again, it's a monumental bill that will change the way that we do our investigations.
Thanks, Nick. At this point, I think Deputy DePat has an update on some conversations his bureau has been having regarding youth engagement. I know you'll have a presentation shortly, but Mark?
Thank you, Chief, and through the chair. Good morning, board members. I wanted to update you on Bill 33, which is the Supporting Children and Students Act, which was passed in November 2025. The reason why I want to update you on this is because this act amends the current Education Act, which requires school boards, which now requires school boards to implement school resource officer programs in collaboration with local police services. The emphasis of the programs is going to be focusing on community safety, prevention, and student well-being over traditional enforcement. It also encourages upstream interventions to address root causes of youth crime and social disorder, and promotes relationship building between the police and students and school communities. I wanted to let the board know that recently we received formal correspondence from both the Peel District School Board and the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board. to start a conversation with Peel Regional Police and the conversation to surround some formal collaboration specifically to this act. The board should know that the School Resource Officer Program was dissolved by Peel Regional Police in 2020, but we've continued to work towards youth engagement and community engagement because developing strong relationships is obviously something that we should be doing. That being said, there are over 420 schools between the Peel District School Board and the Catholic School Board, 71 of which are high schools, and we don't have a program. The reason why I'm bringing that to the board is because there is a funding allocation from the province to stipulate $41 million over 3 years. That funding allocation is not something that has been explicitly shared as to what that looks like. And I wanted to make sure that the board knew that if we were ever going to go into a direction to implement such a program more formally with the school boards, that it's going to require a lot of thought and planning.
Thank you, Chair. And the final update will be from Deputy Andrews.
Thank you, Chief, through the chair. I'd like to flag for the board what on the surface seems like a relatively mundane investigation, but goes quite a way to sort of articulate the complexity of crime and how the complexity of investigations impact our organization. Late last year, our road safety teams became aware of a situation where fraudulent plates were being utilized by street racers in our region. The issue had actually surfaced during Project Erase in 2025. But as a result of our Safer Roads team's work, we were able to identify that there was an organization that was producing fraudulent plates and providing these plates to organized crime groups that were involved not only in Southern Ontario but across Canada in carjackings, knife and gunpoint robberies, multiple auto thefts, and had been involved in numerous incidents of flight from police. In one of those situations, an officer was struck, not seriously injured, but struck. Supported by our CERT teams, the SRT teams were able to track the production of these fraudulent plates to Hamilton, where they executed a search warrant and arrested 2 individuals who were providing these plates not only for street racers, but to organized crime across Canada. The investigation continues, and we're attaching the use of these plates to multiple cases of armed and violent criminals across country.
Thank you. Now, any questions or comments or updates from my board members? Mayor Brown.
Just a follow-up to Deputy Chief Milovich on the lawful access. This is really exciting, and Peel Police was, leading this advocacy in terms of how we deal with extortions and human trafficking. And just so the public who's watching knows the significance of this, when was the lawful access legislation last updated? How does Canada's ability to respond digitally compare to other Five Eyes countries?
It's a great question, and one of the reasons why I'm so excited about it, the last time this legislation had any significant update to it, Google didn't exist. In fact, the iPhone hadn't been invented. And so if you imagine the speed at which technology evolves, and then imagine it's been decades since we've had an update in legislation that allows us to begin to access those platforms that we know are used by transnational groups, it begins to give you an understanding, for the public an understanding of how potentially valuable this will be in responding to crimes, but also preventing them. So very, very excited about it.
Thank you. Any other inquiries or comments from my colleagues? If I could then, just in more general terms, we've had a few good months and years here at Peel Regional Police, and we're very, very proud of it. But in more recent times, I think we had our crowning glory when the Prime Minister visited since our last meeting, and we took him for a tour And first, let me thank Mayor Brown for all of his vigilance and advocacy within Peel and beyond and federally, because I think he's singularly responsible for inviting the Prime Minister. And then how gracious was the Prime Minister to give us over an hour of his time touring the facility, looking at new technology, and could see, and this is my next point, that we're at the vanguard of policing in Canada, dare I say North America, dare I say the galaxy, Chief. And that's a reflection on the people to my right and the people in the audience, and also Adrian Woolley, Trevor Arnold, our Peel Police Association that we work with hand in hand. So sometimes you don't see it looking inward, but when outsiders come to us and ask us for advice on technology, want to partner with, we're becoming a technological juggernaut in policing, thanks to the people to my right. And to be recognized by people like the Prime Minister and other agencies, and we're the ones that are asked to speak, it does not happen overnight, and it's the culmination of a great deal of work and leadership from the gentleman to my right in this team, and right down to every individual that proudly serves us. So I just wanted to take a moment and remark on that, because we sometimes let those pass when we've got to deal with the hard parts of the jobs and the day-to-day criticisms we get as well. We're doing real good, and the rest of the community and the country and the world knows it. So well done, and thanks to the Prime Minister for being so gracious, so attentive, asking all the right questions, and giving us that pat on the back. Okay, with that, let's get to the business of the day. Samita Kohli, Member Kohli, please. Oh, sorry, this is for afterwards. I apologize. Chief, did you have anything further?
No, Chair, just do you mind if I indulge me?
Please, absolutely.
To say, hey, there's some highlights that we've seen in the organization, not just the advancement of innovation and technology and trying new things, the growth of this organization. Thank you to the board. It's the right thing to do. The number of officers that we've hired, the infrastructure builds, all serving the community better. We're seeing it improve in response times and activities. I think one of the highlights, and just to draw one of the things you said, is that it is because of the 4,000 plus members of this organization. And yes, the Prime Minister being there and being able to talk to our frontline people that took a break from their busy day just to see them is actually where the heartbeat of where things are going. But there are good stories to be told. And it is without a doubt, I know we kind of swim in our own fishbowl a little bit here, but it is without a doubt a remarkable organization and the work that's being done. And President Woolley and I had a conversation this morning about our good people, and we just need to be laser focused and continue onwards and push through some of the noise that we all have to deal with from time to time. I want to just take the 2 seconds to piggyback off your comments about how things are here, and there's more work to be done.
Here, here. Thank you, and well said. Okay, so moving on to the matters of the day. First up, item 1, approval of the minutes from the board meeting held February 13th. I have a motion moved by Mayor Brown that the minutes be approved. All those in favor? That is carried. On to deputations. Item number 2, City of Brampton Petty Crime Community Feedback Report. Deputation from Councillor Rowena Santos, Regional and Local Councillor Wards 1 and 5 in Brampton. This presentation will summarize community feedback on petty crime in Brampton, highlighting widespread vehicle-related theft, underreporting, and resident concerns to inform police response and planning. Rowena, welcome.
There we go. There's less pressure sitting in the audience than up here. It's nice to switch over to be on the other side again. And thank you so much for allowing me to delegate this morning to the police board. The last time I delegated to the police board was just before COVID. And I delegated on the ongoing issue and escalating issue of gender-based violence and intimate partner violence. And that was just before COVID hit. And since then, Mayor Brown pointed out most recently the amount of investments that police have made in intimate partner violence, gender-based violence has been incredible and trailblazing, an example across the country. In addition to the work we're doing on road safety with Mark Andrews, in addition to the technology investments, the community safety well-being work that we're doing with Deputy Dapat, really, I'm so proud of the work from the board, from the frontline officers that we are doing in the city of Brampton across the region of Peel. And in fact, FCM, where I'm a board member, we are working with the chief and with Rob to have a national public safety summit eventually, hopefully by the end of this year, together with FCM and CACP, to share some of the incredible things we are doing on organized crime, extortions, auto theft, you name it. And the world is watching us and the country is watching us, so thank you. That being said, while we are prioritizing a lot of some of the most violent and egregious crimes in our country and internationally, one thing that keeps coming up from on the ground from residents, and thank you, Deputy Dapat, for attending my community safety town hall on Tuesday, is petty crime and theft. And when we talk about petty crime in particular, and when we talk about technology, what's interesting is every single resident, I think now, in Brampton has a Ring door camera. And on those Ring door cameras, and if I may ask that the video I brought in be shared, on these Ring door cameras, residents are capturing things like specifically car door checks late at night from the same person who I get videos from at 4 o'clock in the morning from residents in WhatsApp groups. And then in another neighborhood, it's the same individual again. And then in another neighborhood the next night, it's the same individual. And I'll tell you, at the community safety town hall I had on Tuesday, residents were so thankful and grateful of all the investments we've made in new officers and training and technology and the work we are doing to prioritize those crimes. But when they're using technology and capturing these things, and then on the next morning finding out that there is a shooting in their schoolyard where 2 young people have been killed, even though it's a targeted shooting, the fact that they're seeing this every single night, the fact that Amazon packages are being stolen every single night, and then they sometimes call the non-emergency line. And folks say to them, I'm sorry, we can't do anything about it. We're dealing with other priorities right now. It has an impact on their peace of mind. And while we perhaps don't consider some of these things as high priority, the reality is when we see it on social media, when we see it on the WhatsApp groups, and then they get a response or no follow-up that police can't do anything about it, the aggregation of all of those issues and complaints has a direct impact on their perception and their peace of mind on safety in their neighborhood. And so I wanted to share that, including the petty crime survey that I did in wards 1 and 5, because people trust that police are doing their job on the big issues of crime in the city, the violent issues, the things that we're investing in. But on a day-to-day, night-to-night basis, they're feeling like they're not being taken care of. Like some of these things that are impacting their public safety, their feeling of security in their own homes is not being taken care of because they see on their own cameras that the same person is coming on their property and bothering them or rummaging through their car, stealing their lawnmower or what have you. So I'm not saying that we need to invest heavily in the same way as we are in some of the most egregious crimes that we're dealing with in Peel so well. I think that one of the things that the residents shared in the town hall, and perhaps Deputy Dapat, you could share some of those comments as well, is that how can we be better? When they call the non-emergency number, how can we be more customer service facing so that residents don't feel brushed off? That their night-to-night, day-to-day experience of that person checking cars in one neighborhood and then WhatsApp messages and Facebook messages of another person in another neighborhood, we're doing something with that evidence. We're following up. We're letting them know that we're there for them because, trust me, even if a targeted shooting happens in that same neighborhood, they feel like they are also targeted and violated at the same time. It hits them more personally because the night before, the day before, they called the non-emergency line and they said, sorry, we can't deal with this issue right now. And so I think that is the message is how do we make the reporting easier online for them? Many of them didn't know about the new system. How do we make the response when they call the non-emergency number better for them? And how do we follow up? Because the aggregate of all of these complaints on WhatsApp, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, is a lot of people. And they're giving up on calling the non-emergency number. So there is an underreporting of all of these incidents happening very locally in our neighborhoods, which when you add it all up, will become a priority because they think that police aren't doing their job. And we know that they are. So that's my my submission to you, and I provided a report and a summary for everyone of the petty crime survey, as well as a summary of the town hall that happened on Tuesday, so you could see. There were other issues that also came up in the meeting and in the petty crime survey, which was road safety, which we all know Project Erase is going to be launched again for this season very soon. But really, this is one of the things that I think we as a community, both the residents, the police, the municipalities, can perhaps pay a little bit better attention to. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, and thank you for all your efforts, Councillor. Questions, Mayor Brown?
You, Chair Inika, and first of all, thank you, Councillor Santos. She's a superstar on our Brampton Council and on FCM, and as always, you dive into issues with passion and focus. And the petty crime issue is a challenge. I attended the community safety town hall that you hosted this week. And what's interesting is an individual came up to me as I was leaving and said, I keep on sharing the video of this, someone stole a bike off his porch. And he said, I keep on sharing the video in the WhatsApp group and the police aren't responding. I said, you have to share it directly with the police and then it'll be tiered, and, you know, stealing a bike is devastating that is for your family. There may be bigger issues right now the police are dealing with, not to diminish the pain of that loss. And so it made me think, and this is more of a question to the Chiefs team. It used to be you hold the press conference and local newspapers and local TV would cover it and residents would get the information. But local news is largely diminished, and the capacity to get a message out has changed. In Councillor Santos's area, they're all on WhatsApp. And I really think we need to give consideration, you know, could there be a community liaison officer that we just have an account that's in these WhatsApp groups, and to make the ability to complain and raise concerns and frankly respond back. It's almost like it's going in a circle. The video of someone checking the doors is shared in WhatsApp group. Everyone complains the police hasn't responded, but it actually hasn't been reported to the police. And then it gets shared in another WhatsApp group, and the same group gets all angry and worked up about the same issue. And I also know that petty crime, you don't necessarily have the resources to respond to that bike being stolen. But that father who told me that story also told me, if we let them steal bikes, what are they going to steal next? And so I wish I had a recommendation I could say, Chief, to how to solve this. How do we handle petty crime, and how do we bridge the engagement gap we have in a day and age where we don't have the ability to get a message out in the same fashion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Brown and Councillor Santos. We do honestly appreciate this conversation. We know things like extortions affect a very small percentage of our community. The day-to-day quality of life, social disorder ones, such as petty crimes, are the ones that impact everybody and erode people's confidence, not just in the safety of where they live, but also accessing us or our response and capability. So if I may, Mayor Brown, speak to the messaging piece on top of this. We agree 100% that people's awareness or engagement with us is run in informal communication circles. And you and I have chatted about it. And I know Superintendent Dillon and Deputy DePatic, maybe you can invite them to top up. You know, we, without a doubt, not like any other municipality, have to press into other ways of communicating with people. And one of the initiatives that Mark has started with his team is accessing these WhatsApp entities and groups, whether they be local, neighborhood, or ethnocultural or community-based, and having linkage to them. And if they're not comfortable with an officer being on their group chat, we have community ambassadors that are going to, by proxy, we're giving them the information on crime reporting data. We do hear a lot of it. Listen, it's not on the public to always know how to get to us and how to report. There's another side to that about the capacity side, and Councillor Santos would be happy to appreciate the information. I've read the report, and the recommendations are all very valid. Be happy to maybe offline have a conversation with you. I know it's for the board's awareness too, because some of these solutions are absolutely critical. But there are ways for us to press into that. It's not a single solution. I think in our view, we are responding to the high priority calls, and it's hard to get an officer to get to some of the, I don't want to call them, they're not a priority, but they're a different priority. But they're the number one priority in citizens' eyes, without a doubt. And it's disillusionment is the word that's been used in the report. And we owe them the equal amount of weight that we're putting into extortions. Is that too? I mean, this is what lets a community thrive. And so, yes, more officers is helpful, but there's other solutions, alternative forms of getting reports or getting to people or investigating it. So I guess to go back, communication, there are other ways for us to do it. It has to be a made in Peel branding, and our director, Beth Wallman's here from communications, and we've been chatting about this. So maybe I'll just have, for the sake of anybody in the community listening, and I know the councillors know about it, how we are accessing these WhatsApp. I think we have probably, over 250 WhatsApp groups that we're trying to, have linkage to, either receive information from the community that we would not have normally got, but also to provide information which can be pushed out. That's one thing. One of the things that Deputy O'Duarty and I have been chatting about, and I know some of the councillors, this is one small example. It's not an officer always showing up right away because they're at calls. I think, Councillor Santos, you might have had an opportunity to see the presentation yesterday before council meeting about our drones as a first responder. I know it sounds kind of minority report sensational, but if we can get information and people there quicker to the calls that we necessarily are sending heartbeats and boots on the ground to is a separate thing, to get initial information. So maybe Anthony and Mark, there's a totality of things that we can do, particularly enhancing people's ability to get non-emergency calls through and perhaps a response. Can I invite between the three depths to speak to that? And I think it's worth your time and energy. And if I may, at the very end, speak to our prospective conversations regarding the National Public Safety Summit.
Deputy Duarte, yes. Thank you. Good idea, Chief.
Okay, thank you. And first, let me just start by saying, I think when we talk about technology and public safety, there is initially a thought that it is impersonal. Our approach to technology and public safety for community is simply this: high tech equals high touch. It allows us to have more human interactions with community on things that matter rather than less. That is, automate things. So even like things, and I wish I could go back 60 years in policing and rename non-emergency lines to something else, because it does diminish the importance of what someone's calling about. But even in our non-emergency response, using our artificial intelligence tool, and we have folks presenting right after you about ethical implementations of AI, we do that so that we could actually ensure at the end of it that we have a human interaction, a collection, whether that's just a conversation, a collection of information. When we talk about drones as first responders, it's certainly not to negate sending an officer there, but it's to make sure that the community member knows that in the moments that matter, those 2 or 3 minutes that matter the most, we are doing everything we can to collect information, not just for their safety, actually for officer safety, and then for evidence. So I think, if the totality of technology implementation and the advent of AI will help us do that, and I think we're bridging these things. What I personally am leaning into now is how we bridge technology to communicate better. And I think that's probably a good segue for my friend, Mr. DePatt, to talk about the chat groups.
Thanks, and through you, Chair. Councillor Santos, the town hall on Tuesday was really, really informative. The level of engagement from the community and the feedback that they provided to the police was so valuable. In fact, that one of the key takeaways from us, because we did our own notes, I know you had your Post-it notes, and we were speaking very openly about the things that were really plaguing the community. We took our own notes, and the biggest takeaway for us is, obviously, the communities that we're serving are very, very diverse. And when I say diverse, the way that they communicate information and the way that they receive information can't just come from one form. So when we talk about online reporting or going on the website, it doesn't land well for somebody that isn't as technologically, that they don't have that skill set. So our commitment to you is working with our public affairs department and the rest of the deputies to come up with a way where we can communicate more broadly in different means to our elder population when language potentially is an issue or when technology is an issue. Beyond that, as the chief had alluded, the community safety and well-being team led by Superintendent Dillon, who's in the audience today, have been engaging with large segments of the community for the last year through WhatsApp groups. They're not accessing information. They have community ambassadors that are sharing sentiment. They're sharing crime trends. They're sharing suspicious activity. And they're also making sure that information from the police side is being shared to the over 200,000 people that encompass as an aggregate on these communication forums. That's something that we are committed to growing. It may not be the most sustainable way to collect and gather information, but it's certainly a way for us to make sure that we know what the community sentiment is at the time. And I can assure you in the community that we will continue to press into the spaces where we can connect with them more actively and in real time. And then this way we can follow up with them and circle back with them once they do report a crime or report suspicious activity. I will also say, it was a great opportunity for us to also talk about where the community can become involved in community safety. And I think that was a very large acknowledgement from the people in the room that it's important that we lock our cars. And it's important that we don't leave valuables on the porches. And that was the acknowledgement that we don't live in a day and age anymore where you can leave valuables on the porch because an opportunist is likely going to come by and swipe that piece of property. So while there is a humongous role for the police to play in prevention and enforcement, it was also an important dialogue for the community to know how to protect themselves as well from some of these petty crimes.
And thank you very much. I think that the residents who participate in the petty crime survey, as well as the residents we see in the WhatsApp groups and the town hall from Tuesday night, want to be part of that conversation. They want to be part of that solution. Many of them, unfortunately, just are unaware of what tools exist to them, including the Crime Prevention Academy. There was one resident in a WhatsApp group that actually took it when I was promoting it on the various WhatsApp groups and then thanked me for sharing it because they had so much value from it and learned so much. And I think that in these WhatsApp groups, and we're happy to have a community ambassador be part of the various ones in wards 1 and 5, when they share the information, and if they simply know that there is police watching what they're sharing, that might be enough for them to get peace of mind because they feel connected to the police in that moment. So I do appreciate it very much for the time to share this with all of you. I'm confident that we will, again, at Peel Regional Police, find an innovative way forward to also deal with what seems to be a lesser priority in the community.
Well, Rowena, thank you very, very much for the conversation. I got to tell you, I hope your constituents know you really are a testament to that fact that if you want to get something done, give it to the busiest, hardest working woman in the room. And that's you. And your mayor said that, and I share that. And as I said, I hope your constituents know it because you distinguish yourself on all the files you work on locally and at the regional level, nationally as well. And you're a credit to public office. So thank you very much for your continued efforts on another file.
Thank you.
Please, absolutely, Chief.
Chair, my apologies. If I may just finally thank you for your comments. And Councillor Santos, you're absolutely right on the linkage with relationships often help with connectivity. And, you know, with our community liaison officers that are kind of linked to the integrated municipal enforcement teams with bylaw. And I think there's some opportunities. If we'd be happy to have an offline conversation with you. And then Councillor Mahoney, just if we can maybe replicate some sort of linkage in the city of Mississauga, there are opportunities for us to press into these social disorder. The week prior at the town hall with Mayor Brown, we had over about 8,000 people join, and you'd think they'd be talking about extortions, et cetera. They're not. They're talking about that problem residents on their street, which doesn't get the attention from authorities, et cetera, et cetera. It's quality of life issues. So yes, we acknowledge that and would be happy to have those conversations. And on a final note, for the board's awareness, the advocacy to proceed with the National Public Safety Summit, which Councillor Santos brought forward regarding with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, is 100% supported by the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police. Commissioner Creek, who's the president, and I have chatted. We're just trying to find a mechanism of how to do that naturally in the in-year piece, which will be a great way to link municipalities with public safety advocacy. So thank you, Councillor Santos, for driving that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for your presentation. Moving on, our next presentation, item 3.1, New Energy, Building Trust in Artificial Intelligence, Governance, Risk, and Accountability in Law Enforcement. We have a presentation from, Neeraj Bhargava, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of New Energy. The presentation will explore how law enforcement organizations can implement effective AI governance frameworks, mitigate risk, and ensure ethical, transparent and trustworthy AI deployment using leading practices and real-world expertise. Welcome. Deputy Chief Edwardi, did you want to introduce this for us, please?
Hi, and thank you. And through you, the chair, I just wanted to acknowledge Richard, who's also back in the audience there as part of New Energy, and Neeraj traveling here from Ottawa. We gave him the virtual option, but he did travel all the way down, and we want to thank you for that. The chief and I came to know about New Energy last year through our travels and discussions. As you know, we've done over 2 years of community engagement on specifically artificial intelligence and technologies that impact public safety. The board itself, through Mr. Len Carby, led a year-long governance engagement with the community on governance AI framework. So we have all this feedback from our community. We have feedback from our partners, our vendors, technology experts, our members, and our executive. And now we're sitting with that information, and what we want to do is co-join it in some of the work and the recommendations that talk about how now we should be looking to not just implement and educate our members, but also monitor. And this is why we've invited New Energy here today to speak to that. We also saw their presentation to the York Regional Police Services Board and others, and we were impressed, and we asked them to come speak to you today.
Thank you, Deputy Chief, Chair, Chief, and board members. It's a privilege to be here. Yes, and I admire Peel Regional Police and the board and the topics that are coming up. And, you know, I'll just recap the topics that are on your mind and on my mind. Trust, transparency, innovation, oversight. These are topics that you're talking about throughout all your conversations. A lot of great things happening here. Vanguard, I appreciated the chair's comments earlier. But as 2026, we now have a transformation going on in AI. And there's a huge change going on around us. And so we're leveraging this technology, but these questions about trust, transparency, innovation, and oversight are right in front of us. I was very pleased to receive a copy of the report prepared by the Governance and Human Rights Committee for Peel Regional Police and the Community Consultations Report, because I think it speaks, as the Deputy Chief says very clearly, that there is an opportunity to leverage technology and advance your important mandate using technology as a leader in policing. but there's also some risks and some public trust issues that we need to make sure we keep in front of us. So with that, I'm pleased to be here, and I'm happy to introduce myself and New Energy and how we have been involved in this topic. I'm not going to go through my bio. I think it's involved. I'm pleased that I spent a decade in Peel working here with this great community, but we really have looked at building a team that's not focused only on the opportunities with AI, but how to manage it and make sure that we build public trust as we deploy AI. So not only am I representing Richard and our team at New Energy, but we have a team of experts and faculty involved in this topic, subject matter experts. And these are a combination of AI experts as well as governance experts, because what we're talking about is getting practical and on executing and implementing guardrails and monitoring so that we can build trust as we deploy artificial intelligence. This report that our team has read, we applaud you all for what we see in this report. Clearly, the message from your community is very loud and clear that there is support for innovation. Your mandate is very important to the community, but safeguards are really important, and that transparency of how we're using technology like AI really helps drive trust. And the human oversight is essential. So the report speaks very clear, and I applaud the board for the direction I hear the board is embarking on, a policy, making sure we do the right impact assessments on our use of advanced technologies like AI, and registering and reporting openly with the community on what we're doing. But there are risks, and a number of them come up: ethical questions, bias that can be implemented into this technology, privacy concerns, black boxes, limited transparency. So how do we make sure that we build trust as we embark in this reality of advanced technologies? The bad guys are using it. We need to make sure we're leveraging the technology, being more effective in our work administratively and in policing, but making sure it's an operational reality so we can actually move forward with the outcomes in this report. And the quote on the bottom right of my slide here is right from the document: every step forward reinforces public trust, fairness, and dignity. So we need to make sure we advance our use of technology like AI, and hats off to you all for doing this community consultation, being on the leading edge of technology and governance, but certainly in this day and age with AI, the work is ahead of us. Yes, we can applaud all the great work that's happened, but there is work ahead to make sure that we use these advanced technologies. As the Deputy Chief mentioned, we have presented from New Energy AI with a number of police boards, with the Government of Canada and other organizations. So I do have a few slides from the presentations we've done elsewhere, and happy to take questions about how practically you can govern AI in today's climate and making sure you're listening to the public. And I start by saying that I'm pleased to report from our work over the last decade, AI can be trusted, but we need to have guardrails. We need to have oversight. And so there are fears about AI, but there's huge opportunities in leveraging the technology. And so it's not a given that we can trust AI, but certainly there are ways to do that. But, you know, when we started New Energy AI and our embarkation in this topic of governing AI, there was a lot of concerns about the risks of AI. I'll speak to some of them. But today, the biggest risk is not engaging the technology. There's just a huge need and opportunity for advancing. It's a complex world that you're all working so hard in. AI can really advance your effectiveness and serve the public really well. And I think the consultation of the community was loud and clear. There is encouragement to use these advanced technologies, and a big risk of being left behind. So we want to encourage the use of technology with the right guardrails. I do represent a company, New Energy AI. There's a number of organizations that are focused on AI governance. What our organization has done is built a process and a platform and a team that helps be a third-party reviewer of AI, and making sure that we can create a green light where it makes sense and a red light where we need to hold back and monitor AI effectively. So with that, I also share that we have been focusing on law enforcement. And so this topic, as you all know, is not new to the law enforcement industry. industry. We've had conversations with CACP, CAPG, IACP, Interpol, and represented Canada globally. We've done tests with the RCMP, and so we have been really focused on law enforcement and its use of technology and understanding the unique risks that are in law enforcement on building on public trust and measuring AI activities. So with our company, New Energy AI, we've been working with the RCMP and the federal government to the point where we're now approved as a third-party reviewer with the Government of Canada on the use of AI. I'll borrow a couple of slides here as I introduce this topic. And again, it's not new to you, but I like the headline from Interpol from a few years ago that AI really can be the ace up our sleeve to ensure safety and security of our communities. So there's a huge opportunity to advance our mandate by leveraging the technology in many different ways. And so there is a great opportunity, but again, while we advance the use of these technologies for our mandate, public trust is at stake. And so we really need to make sure that in parallel to looking at these technologies, we are building trust and listening to the community and measuring and monitoring what we're doing and being transparent in what we're doing. So the risks in AI, I think you're quite aware, the report speaks of them well: privacy concerns, ethical issues, bias issues, transparency, governance, many topics, and there are headlines of AI going rogue or people making the wrong choices with their use of AI, and we know how important public trust is to your organization, and the last thing you want to do is go down the wrong area. So good governance, and right at the board level, this is really important that the oversight is there and the policies and procedures are in place. This slide I borrow, we co-presented with Toronto Police at the IACP. There's a recognition that AI is now a very broad topic. It's no longer maybe someday, it's today, it's the genie's out of the bottle, it's all around us now. So we need to classify the AI and make sure we govern it effectively, recognizing that there's some high-risk cases and some low and moderate risk cases. So we need to determine how we best govern the AI. The adage that I borrowed from business school from many years ago that we all know, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. We need to understand, we need to have literacy, we need to measure it and manage it and put the right guardrails and effective measures. And so again, this report you've generated with the community sets the table very well for what matters to the community and how can we measure, what do we need to measure and report on so we can manage it. This slide I borrowed from a presentation and work we did with another police board, and then recognizing for Peel, what are the classifications of AI that we need to have, and what are the governance actions that we're going to take and need to take now? Policy and training, oversight, independent third-party reviews on higher risk items, and then certain ones we just don't do. We need to make a very clear distinction of what is acceptable to our community and what isn't, and make sure we have the guardrails for that. And then when we do go into the moderate or high-risk areas, we do it with a proper assessment, monitoring, and reporting on the topics that are so important to our community. So, you know, there's clearly a role for oversight. We're an independent third-party reviewer and recognize that there's really good headway of direction happening at Peel, but really advancing the technology and use needs to be monitored. And we've learned a lot of lessons about how do we do this and monitor use cases and uses of AI. Sometimes we really just need to monitor the users. Other times it's use cases. We need to monitor the data. And, you know, the topic of bias, you know, I know it is well understood, is a concern rightfully in law enforcement globally about building trust and, you know, systemic racism and other concerns. When we talk about AI, there's a risk clearly of exacerbating some of the bias, but there's also an opportunity to measure and monitor and get better at this topic. So people are biased, machines are biased. The good news with machines and AI is you can measure it and we can monitor it and set thresholds of what's acceptable. So we recommend proceeding down the track of your report where you update your policy, you engage third-party review, continue the public consultation and build oversight processes and implement a configurable framework. So this is, again, some slides we presented to other places. We've worked with a number of organizations and certainly believe you're on the right track with the report you have, but the next steps are key. So happy to take any questions or feedback on the governance of AI. But again, I think the report you have sets the table very well. This is a very important topic to your community, huge opportunity to leverage the technology for your effectiveness, but getting to the outcomes of making sure you do this responsibly and have accountability and transparency, there is work ahead. And I applaud you all for moving in that direction, and pleased to be here as part of the conversation.
Thank you. And questions, Ms. Coley, please.
Thank you so much for this update. It's a fantastic summary of really our report. And I wanted to just take a minute, I think from a broader perspective, if someone's not aware, just to give a quick background on this report and that was released. So last year, the Governance and Human Rights Committee undertook this opportunity to go out to the community to get their input and feedback. And I think you made a very fair point about the guardrails and ensuring, and I think that was really one of the biggest purposes, to ensure that we heard from them, ensured that we're also taking into account every possible aspect before we go ahead and roll out with this. So, and I think, you know, key to mention was there were three really simple perspectives, was really ensuring that as policing evolves, so must our oversight. AI is already here, so it must be governed with transparency. And I think if those that don't think it's here, I think will be really awakened. And I think at the end of the day, we want to make sure there's transparency, accountability, and a strong lens to human rights. And I think that was really a big perspective. And I encourage those that get a chance to go and see the report. I know press release was also sent out. A lot of work went into that. I also thank our ARAC committee as well for their input and feedback. As a board, I think we really work hard to ensure that we take into account you know, all possible opportunities for input as we roll out, and then technology especially, more than anything now, because it is kind of where it's all evolving to. So with that, I want to say thank you to you, and, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing more work come through. I really want to take a moment to also thank Deputy Anthony Eduardi and Superintendent Dirk Niles, because there's so much work behind the scenes that's gone on to this. On behalf of the board and the Governance and Human Rights Committee, there's so much work that's happening, and I want to say thank you to you and how it's coming to light, and even working with vendors to ensure that every element is looked at before even we pick vendors to work with. So that's, I think, really important aspect for the public to know as well. So just a big shout out, and thank you to our committee members, Mr. Len Carby, Vice Chair Omar Khan, and of course, Chair Nanda Unica also sits on it. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carby.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report and presentation today. Just following up on the comments by Samita Kohli on what we learned during our deputations and public engagement sessions, and I'll be very specific around one element that kept coming up, and you stated it here: AI can be trusted, and I think our community typically agreed with that. The challenge they had is trusting the guardrails and trusting those who are putting the guardrails in place. And one of the things that came out was it's important to have continued community engagement in that process. And you made reference to a AI governance committee, and that piqued my interest. Are there any models that you can speak to that has something like this, and what's the level of community involvement in a committee like that? Because I think as we go along, when we're trying to build this, you know, oversight of this, we want to know what level of engagement should we be having with the community. Yes, there's third-party review, and that may be one organization or company that is going to help us through that. Any models around community engagement going forward?
Excellent feedback and questions, and you know, I think there's two parts to it. One is the next steps are key. So I agree with the report is a testament to you all, and congratulations for getting there. But the next steps are key, and the next steps are to build a more specific framework on how we're going to classify AI and what we're going to do. What's the governance approach for each classification? This is what we've learned, is that it used to be, it was machine learning, certain use cases, we knew they were coming, artificial intelligence, facial recognition. Now it's all over. So we need to determine, how do we classify the AI and what's the right guardrails? It's not one size fits all. So working with your organization and the community, we can identify that, okay, for certain classes of AI, we're going to have a committee oversight, or we're going to have an independent third-party review, but it needs to be reported back. And what are those metrics we're going to measure? Are we going to measure bias? Are we going to measure privacy? Are we going to report back? So that follow through is critical to build that trust. And so the committee is one of the methods. It may or may not be the right one, but we certainly don't want to overgovern. We don't want to undergovern. We don't want to stop using these technologies where they make sense. But yeah, creating the right structure is the next step, and reporting back with the community and making sure that they're engaged. So that transparency needs to continue.
Thank you. Naresh, thank you very much for your presentation. I've been around a while, and of all the parallels I'm going to give you, this is one that comes to mind. So it was many, many years ago in Mississauga, where I was a councillor, we were hiring a new fire chief. And of course, everybody puts their word in, et cetera. And the hardcore firefighters were saying, we know it should be Bob. He's put out every kind of fire. He understands firefighting. Now he can get under the truck and overhaul the engine if we need him to. And then somebody in the room that was giving us guidance said, remember, 90% of the time a fire truck shows up, they're not putting out a fire. We thought about that. By the way, I've never had a fire. Nobody on my street's ever had a fire. I've never seen a fire. None of my family. And yet there we were on the old paradigm, but you need the heart. You know, maybe the industry has evolved. I won't bore you with the details. It's what's led to paramedics today. And saying, do we need 12 folks in a fire truck to show up when somebody's got heart pains, but they're the first one? Now, maybe a paramedic, the evolution. I'm seeing that evolution in policing where, in a manner of speaking, we're becoming a technology company in some ways. Still need the boots on the ground. Still need the hardcore cop and woman that are coming in, the officers, male and female, because the boots on the ground and the smart, intelligent will never stop. But by the same token, technology is taking us over. For years, by the way, I'm getting credit for coining this phrase because people in the industry haven't. Maybe it's my investment background. But you need to show us what I call the technology dividend. Yeah. Because we're spending millions on it, and our team has really hit it out of the ballpark with NG 911. It's the one that 911, that we used to say, boy, we invested a lot, but look at what's happened to our call times. Right. And it seems to me, and we've got our team here that's at the vanguard of it, as you say, embracing and understanding technology and the investments that we have to make to continue on. Still need the folks with the uniforms on to do the job, but there's no question technology will lead to our salvation going forward. And I'm very proud, and I'll use the word one more time, that we in Peel are on the vanguard, and it's been embraced by this team. And it keeps us in good stead because there's only finite resources, and we have to find other ways of doing the work within the budgets that we have. And the solutions got to go through this at one point or another. So thank you very much to you. Thank you very much for the team and for what we do to embrace exactly that. If Ms. Coley will move receipt of the delegation, all those in favor, that is carried. Thank you again for your presentation. Okay, next up, item 3.2, Peel Regional Police at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. A presentation from Staff Superintendent David Kennedy and Superintendent Lisa Hewison on how Peel will support policing initiatives during the 2026 FIFA World Cup in Toronto. Becoming a very prevalent issue. Deputy Milinovich, did you want to introduce this for us, please? There you go, you're good.
Oh. Excellent. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Staff Superintendent David Kennedy and Superintendent Lisa Hewison for as you mentioned, a quickly approaching event that is going to cause some resource, not necessarily strain, but the need to plan for appropriate resourcing, and certainly the partnerships and work we're doing with our partners in the GTA, so locally but provincially as well, to make sure that we have a 2026 FIFA World Cup that is safe and minimizes any impacts on us here locally.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you, Deputy Milinovich, and good morning, Chair, and good morning, members of the board. Through you, Chair, myself and my colleague, Superintendent Hewison, are here representing two of our pillars of our organization. Myself, Investigative and Emergency Services Command under Deputy Milinovich, and Superintendent Hewison under Community Policing Operations Command under Deputy Chief Andrews. And as the Deputy mentioned, a quickly approaching major world event is coming to our region. And we're here really to provide a very brief high-level update to the board and our community regarding our ongoing preparation for what is widely considered one of the largest, most anticipated global sporting events on the world calendar. Of note, it only occurs every 4 years, that being the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So today, we're both going to speak about some of the activities and the role that we play as a support agency to the police agency of jurisdiction, which happens to be Toronto Police Service. And it really is going to focus on some of the safety and security support that we and other agencies are going to be providing during this event, which is going to span well more than a month. We'll be providing some information on the operational connectivity and engagement and what we will be responsible for both on the ground in Toronto as it relates to the actual event activities, and then some of the ancillary and some of the satellite events that are going to happen in both Mississauga and Brampton, which will become part of our role and responsibility as well. So just a bit of background as we get into the event itself. It is going to commence on June 11th. The preparation has gone on with our areas and the other police agencies over the past number of months, and it's going to run until July 19th, so well over a month. We've got 48 teams playing a total of 104 matches, which is up from 64 matches in years past. It's hosted by 16 different cities in North America, including 3 in Mexico, 11 in the United States, and I'm happy, obviously, and very proud to say that 2 cities here in Vancouver and Toronto, of which one we're going to play a significant role in. And of note, there are going to be 6 games at the newly named, or for the event, Toronto Stadium, which is formerly BMO Field. 6 games that we really want to focus our concentration and our efforts on, because we feel as if those are the ones that are going to require the most attention, notwithstanding the event, because it has such a worldwide viewing audience. All of the games throughout the entire 30-day plus event is going to garner a lot of attention. So as Deputy Chief Milinovich mentioned, this is an absolute collaborative event. Toronto Police Services is the police jurisdiction, police of jurisdiction. Their integrated safety and security unit has ultimate carriage over the event and all of the operational activities. They are really leading the charge with the coordination, but Superintendent Hewison and many of our senior leadership and NCOs have been at the table for discussions, I dare to say weekly, monthly, and as the event draws closer, those meetings become closer in proximity, more frequent. There are still some developments to come, and there are still some activities that need to be framed up and formalized. But those meetings and those conversations continue to happen. So you'll notice, again, Toronto leading it. We're very pleased to be at the table working with our friends and colleagues at the Ontario Provincial Police. We're also working with RCMP, the Ottawa Police Service, York Regional Police, as well as Durham Regional Police. So again, as I said before, members of our Community Policing Operations Command and our Investigative and Emergency Services Command pillars have been actively at the table, framing up what our response on a support basis is for Toronto Police. And I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to here to speak on what our deployments will be for Peel Regional Police. And the 2 pillars that are be mostly affected are the community police operations side and as well as emergency support services. We'll be assisting Toronto Police on 6 of the game days with additional officers through paid not through pay duties, just through overtime. They'll be assigned to perimeter points and also the last mile. And what they refer to the last mile, what that is refers to the final segment of a fan's journey to the stadium from the point where public transit, road networks, pedestrian flow, security screening, and crowd management all converge. And then we'll also be having road safety services. They'll be helping by providing motorcycles throughout the FIFA games to assist with escorts for teams, officials, and VIPs. For emergency support services, they'll be assisting by having an incident commander for all 6 of the match days at Toronto's Emergency Operations Center. And then for 2 of the match days, one section of the public order unit will be assisting at the venue with stadium sweeps, crowd management, and other crowd control details. Then for the airport division, we've been in coordination with the GTAA and all of our Toronto Pearson partners, and we're preparing plans to ensure a secure environment for the passengers, all the FIFA client groups, GTAA employees, and for the public. It's anticipated that FIFA will be significantly increasing our passenger volumes, causing congestion and other operational pressures. Planning has been well underway for the past few months in a multi-agency coordinated approach, and our staffing will be supported through paid duties from the GTAA during the 3-week period to manage the additional workloads and other FIFA-related activities. These paid duties will augment resources at Terminal 1, 3, and for airside. Duties will include enhanced patrols, crowd control, unauthorized taxi enforcement, distraction thefts, VIP movements, and any other FIFA-related details. Also of note, we're working collaboratively with PLCAS, CBSA, and other GTAA partners to develop a first responder strategy to detect and address potential human trafficking. The GTAA will be standing up their own Games Operations Center, which we'll be a part of, and we'll have that direct line to Toronto's Games Operations Center. And for us at the airport, the GOC and pay duties will be operating from the beginning of June until July 4th. For other events that we'll see within the region appeal, these are still ongoing and we'll probably see more as the time gets closer to the games. But so far what we know is Mississauga has planned watch parties for all the 62 matches that will be held in the area of Square One. It's anticipated that Brampton will have the same, having viewing parties, but we're still waiting on those plans. As well, FIFA is doing a cross-Canada tour called Canada Celebrates. And there'll be a stop in Mississauga on July 1st, which is a family-friendly event, which will be held at the parking lot of Square One. And there'll also be a stop for Brampton, which there'll actually be 2 dates, July 18th and 19th. And for these events, the divisions will be responsible for preparing their own operational plans. That includes major incident operations, and if required, public order deployment in emergency operations centers if required.
So thank you. It's important to know that, you know, as a police agency, during the World Cup and regardless of our commitment and activities to support Toronto Police and support this event, the reality is that the world still goes on. The calls for service still continue in our community and within the communities of all the support agencies. And I can say it being part of those discussions, as has Superintendent Hewison, it's very much been in the forefront of the consideration for all of the agencies that are supporting this major event. And we have to be mindful that despite the commitments that we made, which have been significant, all of the participating agencies, that we are adequately and effectively staffed to be able to respond to the day-to-day responsibilities and the needs of our community. And that has not been lost on us. So July 1st, as we know, is a major, major day and event for not only our community, but communities throughout the province and nationally. And we have traditionally maintained a very significant and important footprint and connectivity to many of the events that are hosted both in Brampton and in Mississauga, and many of which are listed on the slide that you see before you. So the commitment is that our participation in World Cup 2026 in support of the Toronto Police Service will not impact our ability to support these important community events that our service and all of our members in our community look forward to every year. And additionally, the commitment is to ensure that business as usual continues within our region. I say, in conclusion, it's more, FIFA World Cup 2026 is more than a month-long event that attracts an international travelers. And in fact, there's an expectation of more than 1 billion people that will watch and view this event, being one of the most largely viewed and anticipated events on the calendar, as I said earlier. It is the first time that the World Cup the Men's World Cup has been co-hosted jointly by 3 countries, which I think is exceptional. And obviously the logistics behind that is very noteworthy and hard to imagine how that comes together. But one of the most important, if not the most important factor, is the safety of security, not only for everyone attending, to ensure that they enjoy themselves, that each game is enjoyed and done so safely, and with the idea and maintain the commitment of maintaining police operations throughout our various regions. That is a unified commitment from all of the associated and involved police agencies. And this is inclusive, as I said earlier, of not only the games that will be happening at Toronto Stadium, but also the ancillary and the support events that will be taking place, which we maintain a consistent dialogue from both the members of the City of Brampton and City of Mississauga to understand what the landscape looks on those days. So subject to any questions or comments that any of the board might have, that will conclude our presentation.
Thank you. And I do have some questions, but just a couple of thoughts. You're absolutely right. It's the biggest World Cup in history in terms of number of participants, excluding one in particular that I really don't want to talk about.
Sri Lanka?
Sri Lanka. Anyway, I do have questioners, and I'm going to go to the list, but I have to be at an event at 12, and so I'm going to ask my vice chair to take the chair at this time and carry on with the meeting. Thank you very, very much.
Len.
Yes, just waiting for the light to come on. Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I think certainly we're all excited for the World Cup to be on our doorsteps, and it's good to see the collaborative approach between all the services to ensure that our community remains safe. In your presentation, you spoke, of course, a lot of need for human resource, and that means a lot of overtime, that means a lot of managing, and therefore I associate that with an increased cost also. So can you speak a little bit around what that means for, affecting our budget? How will we pay for this? Is FIFA involved in some kind of cost recovery with the service? How do we pay for all of this?
Thank you, Mr. Carby, and through you, Vice Chair. It's a great question, and obviously our communities throughout the GTA are certainly sharing a similar concern. In the meetings that we've been part of over the last number of months, the commitment has been a full cost recovery. That being said, there are going to be funneling costs and cost recovery both through not only Toronto Police Services, but as Superintendent Hewison has said, through the GTAA, ultimately to be reconciled back to FIFA. And that is the expectation. And that is what's been conveyed to us, not only through the TPS, but through the FIFA liaisons as well.
Samita?
I have to wait? Yes, I've got it. Thank you. First of all, thank you for that update. And what it shows to us is a lot of work has been going on for months and months behind the scenes. Sitting on the Ontario Tourism Board, we're so excited for the tourism that's going to be coming into not just Toronto, but all overall Ontario, because they're not going to just spend here, they're going to spend it across. And we're excited about that. But the second part that I'm really appreciated that you highlighted were all the concerns that we should all be aware of. And for that, I say thank you. And I know with Children's Aid, and I know, Lisa, you work as well for that. I know that human trafficking is a very big concern. And I just wanted to take a minute on this as well, just because I know personally it's been also a factor. If you look at the statistics, it's a very, very high number that's been attached to FIFA in the past as well. And I do know a lot of work has been going on that. And I actually thank all the police agencies that are working together. There's quite a few task forces regarding that. But being the airport, being in Peel, I really want to take a minute to say thank you for the work that's going in. I know there's a lot behind the scenes to make sure there's a lot of awareness when people are landing, what is happening, where are they going. I know signs are going up. So I just want to put this out there to everybody else. This is really more than anything awareness opportunity as well. So we want to enjoy it. We're excited. But knowing such factors are extremely important to know who's coming in, where are they going, what's happening. So for that, I just, Peel Police, period, I want to recognize, and Deputy Milanovic for the work that's gone on regarding human trafficking and the work that's happening in this division. And I'm hoping, actually, I know you're going to be doing more updates, but I don't think from a community perspective, I don't think it's known sometimes the amount of work that Peel's doing to actually lead this topic. So thank you, and I'm hoping at maybe one of the upcoming board meetings, you guys will actually do a great update on that as well. But thank you so much to both of you and for the work, and to all the officers that are going to be working very long hours coming up very soon. So thank you very much for that.
And before we receive this presentation, I just have a question for you. Did us or any of our agencies receive any external training, like from FIFA or anybody on this, or?
Yeah, FIFA did supply us with a training module specifically for the venue and for the FIFA-related activities that'll be going on in Toronto.
Mayor Brown.
This is a prestigious international event. Just curious, since the Government of Canada and the province of Ontario are helping Toronto host this event in Vancouver, is there any compensation for PRP for the escort service? I guess imagine we'll escorting teams from Pearson to their facilities or hotels. What percent of the cost we incur would be rebated back?
Thank you for the question, Mayor Brown. As it stands right now, there is a full cost recovery for events inclusive of escorts that come to and from the airport right now that are directly related to the FIFA activities, specifically to and from hotels, to and from Toronto Stadium. That is all has been included and has been part of those discussions. Some of the ancillary and the satellite events that happen within our region, most of those would fall under our purview, but those ones directly related to the FIFA 26 activities will be covered.
Thank you. Any recommendation that this...
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to ask a quick question. My mic's on. I'm over here. They turned on my mic really quickly back there, so thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for the deputation. I mean, I think it's really important to highlight. I think a lot of people are excited about FIFA coming, but they don't realize what happens behind the scenes, so I certainly do appreciate you bring this. I did hear that FIFA is going to make $15 billion in profit over this whole organization, or this whole tournament, so really pleased to see that there is full cost recovery. But I do want to highlight, and I don't mean to bring it back to Mississauga, but there's 62 events. Now, that would be outside of the full cost recovery from FIFA. Those are city events that we are working with PRP to be able to have security at those 62 events. And I want to highlight it for our residents of the amount of resources and time that does go in to help keep Celebration Square and those areas, safe during these events. Is there a cost sharing with the city on paid duty, or can you just speak a little bit to that? Because I think it's important. 62 games at Celebration Square that needs to have police presence. I think it's important just to speak to that.
And thank you for your question, Councillor Mahoney. Those discussions continue to happen as we continue to take on and understand the scope of the number of events that happen both in Mississauga and in Brampton. Those conversations are happening at the table with the other police agencies, not you know, they will have similar, but probably not to the same extent of the number of events. There has been no discussion about percentages that there may be some associated cost recovery, but those discussions do continue to happen. If there are any advancements on that, we'll share them through our executive and through the board.
And thank you for that. And I just really wanted to highlight it that, you know, those events that do happen don't come free. There is a cost to that. And I think our residents need to know that there is a cost to that. And in Brampton as well, they're doing that on July 1st, obviously with, you know, Canada Day is a big event and PRP is obviously always there to help, you know, keep these events safe. And there is a cost to that. So just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you.
Sharon Wilmot.
Just to provide some further sort of background on the cost recovery piece as between the Toronto sort of events, I've discussed this with the executive director, we're in the final stages of just finalizing a Section 14 alternative provision agreement with Toronto Police where we are just finalizing the details of cost recovery that will come to the board in the next couple weeks, so the board will be able to see it and review it and sign off on it prior to deployment of our resources.
Thank you. So a recommendation that this presentation be received, moved by, seconded by Len. Okay, thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Khan.
Next up, item 3.3, Community and Safety Wellbeing Youth Services. We have a presentation from Superintendent Harry Dillon and Superintendent Pete Danos. This presentation will outline how Peel Regional Police is restructuring and enhancing its youth services to better support early intervention, prevention, and community engagement, while reducing youth involvement in the justice system. It would also highlight current programs, partnerships, and future strategies to improve youth safety and well-being. Welcome, Inspector Danos and Superintendent Danos and Superintendent Dillon.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Board. I just wanted to take this opportunity to update the Board on the evolution of our youth services area, which will allow us to improve our service delivery and having a greater impact, a positive impact on meeting the needs of our young people. So the evolution will also strengthen our youth engagement area in partnership with our community. Our current structure with our youth engagement services, they are being delivered under our Community Safety Wellbeing Bureau. These officers work with our community partners, and there's 4 youth engagement officers currently. They provide presentations, mentorship, and leadership programming to support the development of our youth. All criminal investigations related to young people are overseen by the divisional criminal investigation bureaus under the CPOC, Community Policing Operations Command Pillar. While these individual functions operate under different pillars, even with the investigative functions operating within the 4 divisions, this limits coordination and consistency between the engagement and prevention function and the investigative function. This limitation also leads to a fragmented approach, which limits and it hinders our ability for early identification, early intervention, and then early support. So what I can tell you is, even before any conversation about Bill 33, last year we looked at our youth engagement services and did a review. And what we identified is a need for us to evolve. So we engaged with academics, we looked at our current makeup, and we assessed current community needs. And what came of that evaluation and what resulted was a new youth services unit, which provides a more comprehensive approach on how we support, how we engage, and how we respond and address the needs of young people. In essence, we're prioritizing our young people and we're prioritizing their development. And really what it comes down to, and the fact that we're going to be enhancing our outreach and engagement is beyond that. The area will now, and when I say the area, it'll be CSWB. We will be taking responsibility of all youth investigations from the Divisional Criminal Investigation Bureaus. This is a centralized approach. And what we're doing with a centralized approach and what will allow us to do is to develop further youth programming alongside our partners to support youth, and having the investigations under the same pillar will allow us to efficiently off-ramp young people when they come in contact with the justice system. By centralizing, we're also going to be able to efficiently identify those youth that are at risk, as well as youth that are partaking in high-risk behavior, so that we can work with our partners, we can focus on those young people, and provide them supports immediately. There's one other change I wanted to talk about that involves youth, but it's really from the perspective of what we're doing with our community stations. Our community stations that are currently under the command of CPOC, they will be moving over to CSWB command, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to rebranding them as community hubs. And what we're going to do is we're going to host a lot of our youth programming out of these hubs in the community. So we'll be in the community and working with our youth and working with our community partners. The community stations will still remain operational. They'll still remain open to the public. There's still that reporting function and the fact that you can come in and ask a community station officer a question. However, all we're doing is just simply amplifying our youth programming, and that we're utilizing those facilities to host these events. I also wanted to acknowledge our 16 partners that make up our community of practice. This group, in essence, has helped us develop our youth and leadership and mentorship programming. They continue to help us, and they'll help us move forward with our youth strategy. When it comes to some of our current programming, I just wanted to high level give an update and a few details on some of the programs that we are running at Peel Regional Police. So when it comes to early education, prevention, the Peel Safety Village hosts numerous programs for primary age school students that involves different topics such as road safety, bicycle safety, 911 awareness, online safety, etc. And what I can tell you, and something that we're proud of, is that in 2024 and 2025, the staff at the Children's Safety Village, they provided programming to over 12,000 students. And so that's an impressive feat, and we've received some very positive feedback from that. Another program that I wanted to highlight is our Youth and Policing Initiative, and thank you to the board for the support in us being able to move that program forward. Just a high-level overview of it, it's an 8-week structured program in partnership with Sheridan College, and it's geared towards youth aged 15 to 18. And really what it is it's a focus on mentorship, on employment, on assisting them on career development, and life skills. What I can tell you for this year, and again, I appreciate the board's support in this, is we're moving towards having 54 YIPI students. And this year, we will bringing back 4 of the YIPI students from the previous year, who will become, will in essence be leaders to this new group. So in essence, we're developing youth to develop youth. So that's an incredible program we have here as well. And I know that Superintendent Daniels is going to talk about some of the programming under ProAction, but what I can tell you is that there's numerous programming, there's numerous engagement that we're having with our young people. As you can see on the slide, there's numerous partnerships that we have, numerous initiatives that are underway out in the community in addressing and supporting our young people. And what I'll also add is a lot of that programming is supported by ProAction Cops and Kids, who I know that Superintendent Daniels briefly will give an overview on. So looking ahead, I talked about centralized approach. I talked about expanding our youth engagement area. In expanding the youth engagement area, what we're going to do is we're going to build out the programming that we're already doing, and we're going to develop new programming. We're going to address the needs and tailor it to the needs of our young people that live in our community here in Peel. And with this centralized approach, as I've mentioned earlier, the goal and the primary goal is to develop and prioritize our young people. And for those that come into contact with the justice system, we're going to work swiftly and quickly to off-ramp them and get them the supports that they need. The goal is to eventually work upstream so that we're preventing young people from even coming in contact with the justice system entirely. There's one other partnership that I just wanted to highlight. I know the chief has updated the board and the community on this, is that the Peel Police Foundation, it was established in 2025, nonprofit charitable foundation that supports community-based programming, supports in the space of youth engagement, mental health, other social risk-based factors. The reason why I wanted to bring it and emphasize this partnership specific to this presentation today is that for 2026, the foundation's two priorities, their first priority is to support victims of human trafficking. The second priority is to support young people and development. So another mechanism for community partners to receive support, to develop programming, and to support our young people. So that's again, another funding opportunity. And what I'll do now is I'll turn it over to Superintendent Daniels, who will speak about ProAction and the work that we're doing with them.
Thank you, Harry. And I'm hoping at the end of the test. Thank you, Harry. And I'm hoping at the end of the presentation I can get my rank back from the chair. I'd like to start off by thanking the chief for trusting me with ProAction Cops and Kids. This charity is incredibly an honor to me and close to my heart. And just to provide some context, this year ProAction Cops and Kids celebrated their 35th year anniversary. The charity was started obviously 35 years ago by the late John Bitove Sr., an affluent businessman in Toronto, and chief at the time McCormack from Toronto Police. And their vision to bridge gaps between the youth and the community are very much alive and aligned with our values as Peel Regional Police today. Fast forward to 2021, we made the brave decision to launch a ProAction Cops and Kids chapter during what the world was experiencing as COVID. We were fortunate to recruit some very dedicated and committed and generous council members with the support of CMG, the PSB, and our local officials. Our first year was a first success, notwithstanding all the COVID restrictions. We had 38 officers involved with a total of 246 youth taking part in the programming. Next slide. As you can see, the next 5 years, programming was a massive success. What I'd like to highlight is there were a lot of sports-based programs. However, programs like the financial literacy program, the resume and interview prep, and the junior mechanics program provide youth with valuable skill sets moving forward in their lives. I believe this speaks to the great knowledge, skills, and abilities that our officers bring into policing and are willing to share with youth of Peel. And they have an understanding of what it takes to better the life for our citizens. For example, our recent partnership with LIUNA has exposed pathways to youth for gainful employment through trades. "2026 has proven to be equally as successful. We have 7 programs in place right now with a ton of kids involved. I want to take a minute just to share a quick story. There was a young lady from the region of Peel who was kicked out of her residence. She was roaming the streets of downtown Toronto, clearly could have been a victim of a human trafficking recruiting case or, recruited to get into a gang. This young lady contacted one of our female ProAction youth coordinators. The policewoman attended the distillery district on her time off duty to meet with this young lady, protect her, and put her in contact with 12 division officers who came down to the distillery districts, and they found foster care safe environment for this girl to continue to not be involved in gangs or human trafficking. So where are we going? It's pretty simple. We're going to continue to espouse ourselves, prioritize the chief's vision when it comes to youth engagement. We're going to continue to develop programs that is not only focused on sports, but is also social development and risk intervention strategies that are aligned with our CSWB model. Organically, our programming will build trust between youth and the police with the ultimate goal of developing future leaders and future policing partners. I'd also like to highlight that in speaking to the officers, they're reporting back that they have an increase in their wellness and their self-accomplishment, which is also in line with providing safe environmental spaces for our members. Last but not least, the numbers don't lie, and they're kind of alarming as to how little this program costs. Since the inception of ProAction Cops and Kids, we have delivered 47 programs, over 1,000 youth involved, over 300 officers involved in programming, almost a 3-to-1 ratio. I know the $310,000 seems like a massive number, but when you break it down, it's $300 per kid. That's it. I'd like to thank the chief for his support through the galas. The $310,000 funding obviously doesn't just appear out of nowhere. There's a lot of work that goes into that. I'd also like to thank our generous council that has been along our side since the inception. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank the leadership of Staff Sergeant Paulo Cincinnati, who's helped me run the program, and all the officers that have been involved to date. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent Danos and Superintendent Dillon. I'd like to say that our board holds anything that involves youth initiative near and dear to our hearts. I've got to spend some time with the ProAction board. There's wonderful people there, and if you could thank them on our behalf personally. At the Christmas party that they had this year, I met a young man who was in the mechanic pool, I believe, and working to become a mechanic for either us or another agency. At the last auxiliary graduation, I met a young man who was in our Yippee program, moved into our auxiliary, and is hoping to be a police officer one day. So there's just wonderful stories. I met a young Sri Lankan boy who started in a Yippee type program and became the chief of police, right? So, Ms. Coley, if you have some comments or questions.
Am I on? Okay, sorry, the red, green. You'd think we'd be used to it by now. Sorry, you guys are doing a great job. Listen, first of all, fantastic presentations. And Vice Chair Khan, you actually nailed it with the examples. I know it was just hearing each of the kids and what they do. And I know even the Bonnie's horseback program, I personally know somebody who I had no idea. It was actually at one of the events that I realized they were part of it. But the fact that the impact it made, and now they're mentoring back. So, so before I get into that, I wanted to first recognize all the initiatives that are happening within the youth sector. This is phenomenal. That slide that kind of lists all the different buckets of how you're going out there with all the programs. It is so heartwarming to see that and the work that's being done for the youth. You know, when it comes to seeing this, and I think, you know, Chief, you said it, I still remember this is years back when I first came on, you said, you know, we want to get to a place where we don't need to show up. So sometimes we have to bring everybody along with us, and that's including creating programs, you know, working with agencies out there so that eventually police don't have to show up. And this is an example of where we're getting into the community, groundwork, what you guys are doing to be able to engage these youth in such positive direction. And obviously examples like this are redirections, right, of youth going in the right places. I want to say Yippee because I have been able to go to every single one of them since I think 5 years now or 4 years, I can't remember, but every one of them, my favorite part is when that program launches, just seeing those kids at the end of that program. Those kids, when they're sitting there, when it launches, they're quiet, they're nervous, you're hearing the stories, the numbers they have to beat out, right? So if they get to 54, they're one of the 54, that means they've gone through hundreds of kids to get there. So already that's a win. And the amount of work the officers do to go through each one, and then you see them at the end. It's like they're different kids, right? They're out there, they're comfortable, they're talking, and now you've got these kids mentoring the next generation. That is an amazing thing. So Yippee, just by kudos, I love when that invite comes. I can't wait for it. So great work on that and all the others. And I really want a big shout out to ProAction. You know, I think it's a vision that you started. Superintendent Danos, you have done a phenomenal job on this. The fact that you just showed the numbers from the start to now, and 306 officers giving their time on personal time. I know how much time you give on a personal basis, but I've been to many of the events and the kids are fully engaged. I was at the Skill Trades event at the La Una Center, and the things that you were teaching them, they probably would not have been in those situations or those opportunities. I know so many of them said, I would look at this as a career now. I mean, they get paid very well. Those are some very lucrative careers. So what you're doing and the trajectory you're changing and the impact you're making is phenomenal. And thank you to everybody who gives their personal time for this program. It means the world. These kids are our future, right? So we're talking about all these things in the future. If we don't do this today, I don't know if we can anticipate a great future. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. Thank you to everybody involved. And of course, Deputy Mark DePat, like your team and all that you're doing for youth initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coley.
Mr. Carby.
Sorry, Vice Chair, if I can just add, just for the board's awareness, working? How's that? How's that? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Through the Vice Chair, for the board's awareness, for that 54 that we're working towards for the IPI students, we had 1,180 applicants. So that's 54 of that 1,180 applicants. So that's just a testament to the program right now, and just the fact that there's awareness out there, and there's young people that are interested in partaking in it.
Mr. Boughton? Oh, Mr. Carby, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendents. I'm not going to demote you for your presentations and the update. Great report. I want to comment on the strategic mindset around youth engagement and the value of us participating in upstream services. Too often the narrative is around, services to community versus police services. And I think that narrative need to shift, because policing is a part. Community safety and well-being is not proprietary. We all have to be involved in that process. So I think this approach where youth engagement is seen at a strategic level, which includes all of these initiatives which are happening. I want to commend the service for taking that approach and building the relationship with those community partners. I think you mentioned the 16 different community groups and organizations that you're connected with in this strategic approach. Having said that, the reporting then need to reflect that kind of strategic level. So I really do like the slide that's up, which is by the numbers, but this is more specific to the ProAction initiative. I think on a go-forward basis, we may want to start looking at the same by the numbers for the initiative overall, which includes all of these programs which are part of the youth engagement strategy, so that as a board member, I can see total impact of this strategic direction. So maybe on our next go around, as we're building this overall strategic view of it, the reporting can be high level so that it can be seen through those lenses.
Thank you. Mr. Boughton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Since Nando's not here right now, I get to do some cliches and tell some stories as he would normally do. Back 50 plus years ago, and I was born and raised in Etobicoke, and I may have hung around with some soon-to-be criminals. There were some bad kids in our neighborhood, and we had no place to go. And the old cliche of those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. But in this case, the local police in Etobicoke got together with a number of the churches, and it was Catholic, and we were Presbyterian Church and Anglican United, and all got together. And on Fridays and Saturdays, they opened the churches up, the basements of them, and they had what they were called drop-in, because the kids didn't have any place to go. So as they all gathered together, there was always, let's see what we could do that's bad or wrong. the police involved in that, and with the kids having a place to go, particularly in the winter months when it was obviously cold, there was a lot of kids, and I would suggest that I may have been one of them, who would have found a different path in life if it hadn't have been for the support of the police and the community, so that kids had a place to go and had things to do that weren't destructive. And there was a lot of good kids who came out of the end of that program, and we developed better socially. There was just so much good that came out of when I look at what you do, and as you know, I've had some involvement with Mr. Carvey on Cops and Kids. It's just fantastic what you do, and you can look at me and say I may be a product of what they did 50 years ago, and I know what you're doing, and you always wonder when you work as hard as you do and the efforts you put forward, are you making a difference? I'm going to tell you from sitting in this seat, you're making a difference. You're making a big difference in this community, and I really admire both of you and all the people who are involved and respect what you've done. Well done.
Thank you, Mr. Boughton. Deputy DePatt.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, Mr. Carby, to your point about aggregating some of that, the impacts that the team is having when it comes to these types of initiatives, I just wanted to assure the board that we're committed to academic evaluation, to measure and report back on the efficacy of these programs. We often will talk about statistics, but I also wanted to make sure that everyone knew that there are stories behind those statistics that talk about real impact. And that's where this team is really focused on. And I'll commit to the board that at a future meeting that we'll bring all of it together, because we are working with academics to make sure that the efficacy of the program is something that we want to share as well.
Thank you, Deputy DePatt. And with that, I'm going to call for a recommendation to move this presentation. Everybody. Moved by Sumita, seconded by Al. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
So I'm just going to circle back for a second. Chair Inika missed the board member questions and announcements. So if anybody... Sumita?
Yeah, sure. I just, I think we've already talked about, the report, et cetera. I really just wanted to do a big shout out because this last week was the National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. And I really just wanted to do a big shout out. It shouldn't be a week. Of course, we all say it should be every day, all day, and we do recognize it. But myself, Vice Chair Khan, and Mr. Al Boughton, we all had a chance to visit the call center. And they had done such a great job because we went at the end of the week. So they had been celebrating all week. And we were so happy to hear that. And certain individuals got recognized for their work. And then you hear the stories of why they were recognized. I mean, it's just unreal, and that was just one story or two, but you can imagine they're doing this every day. I think for all of us, what they do every day matters so much because in most cases, they're often the front line to when somebody calls in with an emergency. And not only do they work so hard to protect the community, they work so hard to ensure our officers have full line of sight when they're going into a situation. So they're also protecting our officers. I always tell Deputy Eduardi, please rename them mini detectives or some better name, but it still hasn't taken. So I just want to point that out because let me tell you, they are some of the best analysts in this business. They are working. If you get a chance, or if you get a chance to see some of the videos, they were, and I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Eduardi to actually mention they were recognized publicly in a great video as well and news coverage. But if you ever go into one of their desks, and Mr. Boughton has actually volunteered alongside them many times, they're working off multiple screens at one time and answering multiple calls at one time. So they're not only working on one thing, they're working on several things. And then the fact that they're able to do all of that, and by the time the officer gets to the situation, have provided them ample information to be able to walk in informed. And I also want to take a minute to just recognize, of course, Deputy Anthony Eduardi and all the work that has made us the best in class. I'm okay to say that. I'm proud of that. But I also want to recognize Superintendent Mark Noble, Inspector Greg Jennings, and Staff Sergeant JP Valade for all their work that they're doing every day. So it was just a minute to recognize them and thank them. And we were just continuously so proud of the work that they put in. Thank you. I wanted to turn it over to actually Deputy Eduardi, maybe if you wanted to add to that.
Thank you, and through you, the chair. May I just top that up with a little bit about our communicators and call takers? People, as you said, Ms. Coley, they don't realize that they are the first of first responders. The very first voice you hear in a cry for help when it comes through our police communication center, we get 1 million calls a year through that call center. 1 million. Is a voice on the other end of the phone that's just trying to help. And they, over the years, we've made great strides on providing them the technology to be able to do their jobs quicker, faster, reduce call times, improve response times. But that still doesn't mean they get a break in the day. And I know they want to provide an honorary desk for Mr. Boughton there because he's there so often buying lunch and supporting, and you too, Ms. Coley, certainly. But they do a tremendous job. So you're right. The recognition 1 week a year is the least we can do. We honored 2 of our communicators with Communicator of the Year, and also Call of the Year, the way Communicator dealt with. So it was a great week. We thank the board so much for the last 3 years, especially the support that was provided for the changeover in technology, the hiring of communication staff, and we see those results from just 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, where if you called 911 in Brampton or Mississauga, you were on hold for probably upwards of about 3 minutes. And last week, due to the hard work of all those civilian professionals, the women and men that you honor, Superintendent Noble, who's been an absolute, well, I guess I could say a rock star, Inspector Janice and Staff Sergeant JP Valade, we are now down to 5 seconds. And that is an incredible feat with good leadership and great people. So thank you for providing me the opportunity just to comment on that.
Thank you, Deputy Eduardi. And with that, is there any more questions or comments? No. We're going to move on to new business and a consent motion. Items 4 to 6 will be approved by one motion. The following reports are considered routine or have been considered and discussed by committees of the Peel Police Service Board and have been forwarded to the board for information. So I'm going to recommend that items 4 to 6 be received. Moved by Glenn, seconded by Mr. Mahoney. All in favor, the item is moved. Other new business, we have the lease opportunity at 25 Capstan Drive, Mississauga for Community Strategy, Partnership and Intervention Team. Report dated March 5th, 2026 from Deputy Chief DePatt, Community Safety and Wellbeing Command, providing the board with the request to approve a lease of space at 25 Capstan Drive, Mississauga. The board's Finance Committee received and reviewed the report and recommended that the report be forwarded to the board for decision.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Yes, the report before the board is approval to secure lease space at 25 Capstone Drive in Mississauga to support our community strategy, partnerships, and intervention section within Community Safety and Wellbeing Command. As everyone knows here, the area there's a ton of investment in supporting community, and there's a ton of growth that has come with that. The reallocation will allow the team to operate alongside key community partners and strengthen collaboration. And this proposed lease represents a strategic step towards better aligning the work that we're doing in the community. So subject to any questions you might have.
It is recommended that Peel Police Service Board approve the lease of the space at 25 Capstan Drive, located in Mississauga, to relocate the Community Strategy, Partnerships and Intervention section of the Community Safety and Wellbeing Command. Moved by Samita, seconded by Al. All in favor? The item is moved. Item number 8, direct negotiation with the Bramik Creative Business Products for supply and installation of the 24/7 operations call center consoles. Report dated March 9th, 2026 from CAO and Deputy Chief Jackson, Corporate Services Command, providing the board with the request to approve a direct negotiation with Bramik Creative Business Products Limited for the supply of communication center console replacement. The Peel Police Service Board's Finance Committee received and reviewed the report and recommended that the report be forwarded to the board for decision. Deputy Chief Jackson, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Just to comment, we did discuss this at the Finance Committee. These consoles are all currently embedded within our existing communications facility and backup center. It was competitively procured some years ago. A scan of the market refreshed the reality that there are no consoles that have the unique dispositions that made these consoles a successful candidate back at that time. As well, even if there were, to rip out and replace and reinstall new consoles would be the less cost-effective option. The total cost of ownership to maintain and continue to procure the Bramik consoles reduces the total cost of ownership for the organization.
Thank you, Deputy Jackson. It's recommended that we approve this contract. Moved by Al, seconded by Len. Thank you. All in favor, the item is moved. Going on to item number 9, direct negotiation with Geotab Incorporated for vehicle telematics services. Report dated March 9th, 2026 from CAO and Deputy Chief Lauren Jackson, Corporate Services Command, providing the board with the request to approve a direct negotiation contract with Geotab Incorporated for the supply of vehicle telematics services. Sorry, Deputy Jackson, if you have anything to add.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Just a comment. The board has heard about Geotab now through a few different pathways, both how it has been effective for us in our fleet. It allows us to be more informed and knowledgeable about what is happening across our fleet. It has allowed us to have data around usage that's led to cost avoidance and cost savings for this service, data that we did not have before. This is a request to expand its installation within our fleet to continue to serve those purposes, and once again was discussed at Finance Committee.
Thank you. It's recommended that the PPSB approve a 5-year direct negotiation contract with Geotab Incorporated for the supply vehicle telematic services, an estimated amount of $775,000, excluding applicable taxes. Item moved by Mr. Mahoney, seconded by Mr. Carby. All in favor? The item is moved. Item number 10, contract extension for informal technology research and advisory services and analytics. Report dated April 5th, 2026 from Deputy Chief Otwardi, Strategy and Innovation Technology Command, providing the board with the request to approve a contract extension with Gartner Canada Company for research and advisory services. Mr. Deputy Otwardi, do you have anything to add to that?
Subject to any questions, we use Gartner, long-standing relationship. They are the largest, most respected innovation technology advisory company in the world. We use them to stay efficient, understand emerging trends in technology, innovation, and implementation.
Thank you. So it's recommended that the Peel Police Service Board approve a contract extension for Gartner Canada Company for research and advisory services for a 5-year term in the amount of $996.58, and further PPSB delegate authority to the Chief Administrative Officer to increase and or extend or renew contracts subject to available funding while these services are required for use at PRP. Moved by Len, seconded by Al. All in favor? The item is moved. Item number 11, 2025 Corporate Risk Management Annual Public Report. report dated April 7th, 2026, from Chief Duriapa, providing the board with data as it relates to risk management within Professional Standards Bureau. Anything to add to that, Chief?
Thank you, Vice Chair Khan, and I'll invite General Counsel Wilmot to speak to some of the content and the nature of the report.
Thank you. Just on a high level, this is a report we give annually summarizing some of the information that the board requires with regards to internal affairs investigations as well as public complaints investigations, which comprise our Professional Standards Bureau. I would simply note that for the purpose of the ISB portion, each of these matters are reported to the board in detail through the SIU monthly reports. So this is a summary of statistics. With regards to the PSA, CSPA discipline offenses, these are the formal matters that have gone public with summaries. Happy to answer any questions if there are any. I would note that under the new CSPA regulation, we have specific statistics that need to be reported to the board that will follow from this report on the next agenda with regards to a breakdown of investigations by division and certain other requirements in future years that will be incorporated into the same report. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any about specific matters.
Thank you, Ms. Wilmot. It's recommended that this information be received. Moved by Mr. Boughton, seconded by Mr. Carby. All in favor, the item is moved. Item number 12, Police Pursuits 2025 Year-End Report dated March 19th, 2026. Deputy Chief DePatt, Community Safety and Wellbeing Command, providing the board with 2025 year-end police pursuit statistics. Deputy DePatt, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you, and through you, Vice Chair. This is the 2025 annual police pursuit report. In 2025, there were 29 pursuits in total. It's important for the board to know that every single pursuit is reviewed by our police vehicle operations and by a dedicated committee that makes sure that all the protocols are followed for something that potentially could cause a lot of risk to the community. The review process is also designed to continuously improve officer decision-making and ensure public safety remains the overriding priority. In terms of why the pursuits were initiated, the largest triggering events for the pursuits from 2025 were involving stolen cars or attempts to steal cars and impaired drivers. These categories definitely reflect situations where there was public risk if we did not pursue them. And overall, that demonstrates that our pursuits remain relatively infrequent, but and closely aligned with our historical annual averages, but also highlighting that there are some significant events that are happening within our region that are causing our officers to go and catch those criminals.
Thank you, Deputy DePatt. And with that, it's recommended that the information be received. Moved by Al, seconded by Samita. All in favor, the item is moved. Moving on to item number 13, Corporal Matthew Dining Bursary. Report dated April 8th, 2026. Deputy Chief Andrews, Community Policing Operations Command, providing the board with the request to approve a continued funding of Corporal Matthew Dining Bursary for 4 years. Deputy Andrews, anything to add to that?
Thank you, Chair. Through the Vice Chair for the board, the COPS program partnership with 2824 Royal Army Cadets is one of the premier youth engagement programs associated to Peel Police. We currently have over 40 former COPS cadets that are members of Peel Regional Police. 2824 is affiliated with the 2 MP Regiment, which is an active service unit with the Canadian Forces. And in 2019, the board established a bursary in the name of Corporal Matt Dinning, who was a member of 2 MP regiment that was killed by a roadside bomb in Afghanistan. This, the funding for that bursary has expired, and this report is a request to extend that funding for another 4 years and expand it to $1,000 as opposed to $500. Our connectivity with 2824 is extremely strong. The talk that has taken place around the impact and profile of our youth engagement efforts just highlights the value of the program. And again, the fact that 40 of our members are former cops cadets just goes to show how impactful and rewarding for us the program is, and not to speak of all the other benefits it has for our community. So subject to questions?
It's recommended that the PPSB approve a 4-year commitment to continue financial support of the Corporal Matthew Dinning Bursary Award on an annual basis. It also recommended that the PPSB approve an annual increase from $500 to $1,000 for the total 4 years. Moved by Mr. Carby, seconded by Ms. Coley. All in favor, the item is moved. With that, we have the adjournment of the public meeting, and we're going to go into the in-camera session. We're taking a break? Just a quick break. Thank you.